I don't know what that was. Hello, everybody. We're back. It's back. Football's back. League One is back. It is fantastic. We can't wait. We are away to Gillingham on Saturday. You know who we've got on the show. It's Matt from GillsInTheBloodTV and the Third Tier podcast as well. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. Yeah, like you, I think, and probably every football fan up and down the land. Can't wait for it to start properly. I've been to one friendly against Millwall last week, and that was great fun. But yeah, when the proper stuff starts is when obviously it starts to matter again a bit more, doesn't it? And it's not too far away now. So just another 3 or 4 sleeps and we'll all be good to go on Saturday.
And I think last time we had you on, we were sort of talking about potentially going back into the grounds. Obviously, that didn't materialise, but now we are. You know, we're both going to be at the game on Saturday. You know, how exciting is it, not only as a home fan to get into a league game to Priestfield, but, you know, to have the away fans back in as well?
Yeah, I think it's brilliant because it wouldn't be quite the same without an away following. You know, you get that sort of to and fro from the two fan bases, and we know that the two managers aren't exactly best mates as well. And I think if it was just us in there, it would be a little bit boring. You tend to bounce off the away fans and the away fans bounce off the home fans. And if you get a poor decision, obviously one set of fans gets riled up, the other takes the mix. So I think it's brilliant. Went to the friendly last Tuesday, like I say, and it was me and Boz kept looking at each other as if to say, like, is this really happening? Are we actually here? Because it was all a bit surreal. But I didn't, at any point, did I not feel unsafe or anything like that. It was a bit congested coming out afterwards. But, you know, if everyone's being sensible and taking precautions still, then I see no reason why we can't just carry on and have what should hopefully be a normal season.
I think most of our fans' game would be that playoff final that we had with Blackpool, which we don't particularly like discussing on the Stacey West. Let's talk about Gills then. Hopes for the season. I know you've made a very, very good season preview video. I recommend anybody watching this, make sure you go check it out. I'll put a link in the description to Matt's video. I won't sort of ruin it, but, you know, what are your hopes as a Gills fan for the upcoming season?
I think first and foremost is we have to be aware that it's a very open division again, and there's some very big clubs in it. And I've said it over and over again on my channel on the Third Tier that there's probably 2/3 of this division probably think they can get in the top half. So that means there's going to be teams that are going to be disappointed that finish 11th and below, and there's probably 50% of the table that think they deserve to be in the top 6. So again, there's going to be another half dozen teams that are going to have chairmen, managers, fan bases that are not going to be too happy come May, such as the level of competition now. I think there's 8 teams in there that have played in the Premier League. I think there's another half a dozen that have been in the Championship in the last 20 years. It should be a very, very good season, and I can't wait for it to get going. And covering the division as a whole now is really exciting because obviously I'd have to take more notice of all the other teams because I'm co-hosting the Third Tier, but without trying to sort of deflect away from the Gills side of it. But I think from a Gills point of view, we'll ruffle a few feathers along the way. Again, we'll probably upset a few. We'll probably upset our own fan base at times. But I think we'll be in the top half again. We'll be competitive. Whether we've got enough to really have a playoff push, I'm not really sure. Especially at the moment, we're probably light in a couple of key areas. It looks like John Akindi's leaving this week potentially, according to Twitter. So that means we've actually only got one centre forward. So I'm hoping there's going to be a bit of movement inwards before Saturday afternoon. But the players we have brought in, I think, have been decent. They've strengthened us. It looks like Evans has realised he can't start the season like he did last season with too much youth. So he's brought Max Amar back from Bristol Rovers. I'm not taking any notice of that season at the Mem because he's a very good defender, and that wasn't Max Amar that we saw last season. I think the 2 keepers that we've brought in are solid enough. One's exciting in terms of, you know, being young and being on Chelsea's books, but Aaron Chapman's done well at League One and League Two level previously. Reece Bennett I really like as a signing, looks really clever. Played for Evans before. Can play a couple of positions. Middle of the park looks really strong. We've got Stuart O'Keefe fit from the get-go now. We've got Carl Dempsey still. We've got Ollie Lee back. We've added Ben Reeves. We've added the kid Phillips from Watford, who looks a really good signing on the little that I've seen of him so far. Obviously, you're going to have to bear with him at times. He's a kid, and that's why he's been sent out on loan. But Danny Lloyd, I think, is an exciting addition if he gets back to the levels of League One a few years ago at Posh as well. But I think it's clear, isn't it, that every Gills fan at the moment, if you said where's the concern, it's if Verdane Oliver doesn't score, where do we go through for goals? If John Akindi leaves, we need another backup to Verdane Oliver, and I'd like at least one striker that comes in who's a bit different, dare I say it, you know, like a quicker type, like a Brandon Hanlon that we had a couple of seasons ago, who can potentially score a few more goals, obviously, but we definitely miss that sort of fox in the box type who can run in behind and stretch teams. And at the moment, it looks like if we do play two up top, we're going to have someone who's almost filling in, and I'm not too happy about that. But there's still 3 weeks left of the window. It's not window doesn't shut Saturday, and if we get beat Saturday, it's not the be all and end all. But at the same time, if we turn you over, it doesn't mean we're going to win the title. It's a very competitive division, and I'd be happy if we matched last season's and the seasons before's 10th place finish. I think that would represent a good campaign again.
You think it's the strongest? You know, as somebody who's seen this club in League One for quite a while now, you know, a bit of a League One club as Gills are.
Longest serving now. We are longest serving now, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. And
you know,
we'd love for you know, we've been up and down the pyramid, so we probably prefer a bit of stability. But do you think this is the strongest League One lineup we've had whilst Gills have been in the division? And obviously, you mentioned the 8 Premier League clubs.
Getting there. I think it's getting there. If you look at the 4 teams that came up from League Two, obviously Bolton, they're a huge club. Historically, they've played in the Premier League, played in Europe. Excuse me. Cambridge have been in this division 20 years ago. Cheltenham and Morecambe are the sort of the new ones that are probably a little bit of the unknown quantity. But the 3 teams coming down are massive at this level. Sheffield Wednesday, an absolutely monster of a club. Won titles, won FA Cups, all that type of thing. Have played host to some of the very best footballers that the world's had to offer over time. You know, if you're looking at like Chris Waddle and people like that, and going back further, there's probably plenty more. Rotherham always tend to do well at this level. Wickham, I don't think, are going to be that far away because they've only lost 1 or 2 from that side that got out of this division a couple of years ago, and they've probably replaced them adequately enough for this division in the players I'm talking about. Anya Dimna and Ikpeazu have both left, but I think they've bought really well to replace them with Kai and Vokes. I think they're 2 really clever signings at this level. And Gareth Ainsworth's a very good manager in League One and League Two. So, and he's been there donkey's years, and I think he's the longest serving manager in the league. So he's been there for 9 years. So they know how to play. All their players know their roles. I think they'll be up there. And then you've got to chuck in the Portsmouths, the Lincolns, the Ipswiches, the Charltons, and all Wigan have bought really well. There's so many teams that have probably got their eye on the top 2, and there's going to be a lot of teams that end up slightly disappointed come the end of the season. Definitely,
there's quite a lot of money being thrown around in League One this year, and there obviously, I know, certainly coming out of press around where you guys are from. I know Steve Evans has been talking in the media about. You know, I think it's highlighted the fact that we've actually bid quite a significant amount of money for a left back, which we sort of know nothing about. But you know, the quality in League One in terms of the recruitment, you know, you look at Ipswich, it's really up there, isn't it, in terms of definitely a lower end Championship sort of budget, that sort of club. But you know, what was I going to say? Anyway, the money is, you know, I was just going to see what your thoughts were on Steve Evans and what he's sort of come out. I'm not sure if you've come out and seen what he said today about Lincoln and spending money.
I've seen a newspaper article. I've seen a couple of Lincoln fans have retweeted it and called him fat and whatever. But it's, he's not wrong at the end of the day, regardless of what we think of him, whether we think he's the nicest bloke in the world or the biggest arsehole on the planet. He's not wrong. There is daft money being chucked around in League One, to try and get to the promised land of the Championship. But that's not just one club, that's plenty. And so I upset the Wigan fan base a couple of weeks ago because I said that Wigan's summer spending was indicating a promotion spell. I got absolutely battered on the 3rd tier because I got told they'd only paid a fee for one of them, but they're still paying big wages. There's you know, rumours that Charlie White's on upwards of 8-10 grand a week, so that's still big money. It's a big outlay, but I don't think Steve Evans is wrong. There is some big money going around. If you look at Ipswich, we've just gone and bought George Edmondson for £1 million or something. He's only played 20, 30 professional games. Yeah. But, you know, if they get promoted, no one cares.
Yeah.
And he said as well, if he had that money, which he's had at previous clubs, he'd be spending it. So good luck to him. So I don't think he's saying anything to be, you know, sort of disrespectful to any other club. But I think he's basically just stating facts that there is a lot of money being thrown about because there's a lot of clubs that think they need to get out of this division and get out of it quickly as well.
And Gills were under a transfer embargo, weren't they, earlier in the window? Can you just sort of give us a bit more colour on how that sort of happened and what the consequences were for the club?
Something to do with apparently the accounts had been filed late for the last financial year. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not an accountant, but Steve Evans, Paul Scully come out and said that it was delayed and we'd processed them all on time, but it had been delayed because of COVID issues at the auditors. It then got announced on the EFL website that we was under a soft embargo, which meant we could only offer 1-year contracts, I think it was, or 6-month loan deals. Yeah. We couldn't top up loan fees, so we was basically relying on parent clubs to pay everything if we were getting people in. But then I think it was the 23rd of July was the day that the auditors were meant to be sorting out, and lo and behold, that day we announced a loan signing for a whole season. So it's been lifted, I believe, and nothing's been said since. So that's my knowledge on it. It's I don't try to get too involved with that stuff. Some people do. That's up to them. But I'd rather concentrate on the football side of things. And Steve Evans said it wasn't really affecting him and Paul Rayner in terms of going out and looking at players and trying to bring them in. Gills don't generally pay much money for people at all. I think the last person we paid a fee for was Mr. Akinde, and that was 2.5 years ago. So
yeah,
or year and a half ago. Sorry. So it didn't have too much of a detrimental effect in what we were trying to do.
Going back to the football side, obviously the club have had quite a big outlay in terms of important outlay of players. Obviously, you've had Jordan Graham, who we thought might have been making his way up here, has gone to Birmingham City in the Championship. Conor Ogilvy's turned up at Portsmouth despite being on trial with you guys by the sounds of it. Jack Bonham's made the step up as well. Just talk about those players and how big of an impact you think those sort of, the loss of those guys might have on you this year.
Graham and Ogilvy, 100%. I mean, Graham, we've suddenly got to replace 13 goals and about the same in assists in all competitions, and that's hard to do unless you've got money to chuck about. So we're going to be relying on Evans and Rayner being a bit clever. Danny Lloyd's coming on a free, potentially could be one of the people that steps up a little bit. I think Carl Dempsey will have to step up even more with more goals and more assists. Conor Ogilvy will be a huge miss, probably for me, top 3 left backs in the division last season. Can play centre half as well, so he's versatile. He scores probably 4 or 5 goals a season as well. So you're losing skill sets at both ends of the pitch, so to speak. Jack Bonham, not so much. I like Jack; he's a very good keeper. But I think you can find decent League One keepers quite regularly, and I think we've managed to do so. We've got Chapman, like I say, who's experienced, 31, who's played plenty of games, League One and League Two. And we've got Jamie coming from Chelsea, who was very good at Stevenage last season. So I don't think that'll be too much of a miss. And then the others that all went either barely played or Steve Evans decided they weren't worth a contract. The main one was Dominic Samuel, which I think was a bit of a surprise at first, but then it became clear that apparently he'd had some sort of fitness test towards the end of the season, and it come back the results that what was rumoured that he wasn't fit enough to be able to play Saturday, Tuesday. So Steve Evans said, well, there's no point. And, he was probably on a decent back as well for us. So if you're wasting a wage, then you have to make the decision, don't you? And he's decided to cut his losses. But he's the type of striker we need, though, Dominic Samuel, a bit quicker, that can get in behind, that will run in behind the centre-backs and the full-backs and feed off of any flick-ons that Verdane Oliver does win. Let's just hope we can get him in sort of the next 24, 48 hours before Saturday. So we've got a couple of options from the bench if the need arises.
I think Danny Lloyd's a really interesting one, actually. Obviously, he's played for us before. I'm not sure. He had a spell when he was in the conference with Colwyn Bay. Really good. He gets around. He'll get around with Dane Oliver. Just sort of talking about our business. I know you sort of spoke about it on the third tier last night. Chris Maguire coming in, Lewis Fiorini, Dan Alundaloo, players like that. Just wanted to get your interest on what you thought Lincoln's business has been like this year.
I think it's good. I think the people that have come in are decent. It's whether it improves you enough to go beyond the levels of them loan people that you had last season remains to be seen. And that's like anything, because like I'm sitting here talking about Jordan Graham's a big miss. If Danny Lloyd has the season of a lifetime, then we don't miss Jordan Graham. So we could be sitting here in 6 months and Chris Maguire's got 10 goals and 6 assists by Christmas, and no one's worried that Morgan Rogers has gone and Brennan Johnson's gone and George Grant's gone and all that. But I just think the amount of good players that you had on loan is going to be tricky to replace, because you're relying on then every single loan player that comes in to replace them, or player that comes in on a permanent to replace them, stepping up and being just as good. Palmer, the keeper, was excellent. I know you've got another lad in from West Brom, could be just as good, but you know how good Palmer was. Who was the left back you had from Tottenham? Was it
Aoma?
Aoma, but there was talk of him potentially coming back.
Fingers crossed. We're hoping to get him back on a permanent. It seems a bit unlikely, but we'll have to wait and see. If the problem is
it's tricky now, isn't it? Because Tottenham are looking at everyone, I suppose, now, because they just brought in a new manager.
Yeah, and the Premier League. The problem is the Premier League loanees aren't coming down yet, are they? Because they've not finalised their squad. So Morgan Rogers could well find his way back into League One this year. Let's talk about the game then on Saturday. How are we expecting Gills to line up? I know we're sort of expecting the style of play Steve Evans' teams. We're well used to Gills and the style of play that that they've had over the last sort of 2 seasons. We saw that especially in the game at Simpson Bank, which turned us over 3-0, which wasn't too impressive from our point of view. But what are we expecting from Gills then, and sort of a result as well, score prediction?
I think looking at the personnel that we've got at the moment, I'd imagine he'd set up. We played 4-2-3-1 against Colchester and won well. We then played 4-4-2 Diamond against Millwall, drew 1-1, and were very good against Millwall. In fairness, when we was at what you'd say is closer to full strength for the first sort of 60, 70 minutes, we were much the better team, and they had a fair amount of players out that are going to feature in the Championship. It was when we made the changes and the game became disjointed, and we changed the system. I think we had to go 4-4-2 just because we was getting minutes in the legs. But I'd probably say it looks like we're going to start with. Well, I've picked 11 players, and I think they could probably do the Diamond or a 4-2-3-1 without having to make a change. So if I was picking it, I'm not sure on the keeper yet. That'd be Cumming or Chapman. I think my back four would have to be Reece Bennett, Jack Tucker, Max Amar, and David Tatonda at the moment. Tatonda I've only seen once. Wasn't overly impressed, but he's had COVID, bless him, for 2 weeks. He's only just come back through the door in terms of training, so he's a bit behind, but he's literally the only left back we've got at the moment, so he's going to have to play. Ryan Jackson and Robbie McKenzie have both picked up knocks in pre-season, so I think Bennett's going to have to play right back. I think the midfield four, if I was picking it, would be Daniel Phillips, Stuart O'Keefe, Kyle Dempsey and Ben Reeves. I've been impressed with Ben Reeves since he's come in. He offers a bit of balance because he's naturally left-footed. And then it'd probably be Lloyd and Verdane Oliver up top. But you can move that about if need be, because you could put Dempsey in the 10 and then make Phillips and O'Keefe a 2. Yeah. And then have Reeves, Dempsey and Lloyd in behind in all manner of formations with Verdane Oliver as the lone striker. But I'm hoping we get a couple of people in the next day or so, and then it gives us a little bit more options, because at the moment, John Akindi's your only replacement striker. You then got Ollie Lee, Alex McDonald, who are decent enough, but with a couple of injuries, we're going to be a little bit short on the bench, I'd imagine, in turn. We'll probably fill it up, but I don't know, actually, looking across. Yeah, we probably shuffle in, to be fair. But yeah, that's probably 11 I'd go with, is them 11 that I've picked, and sort of fluctuate between the Diamond and 4-2-3-1, depending on how the game's going and obviously how much of the ball you have and how much of the ball we have as well.
And, just in terms of, do you think it's a good time to play Gills then? Because obviously you might not have all the options coming off the bench, based off, the last time we played you when you were hitting quite a bit of a purple patch, weren't you?
We were flying last time when we come up to your place. We were in the middle of a really good run. I think that was that March run when we won 6 out of 8, and that's when the playoff talk started. But yeah, I don't know. It's first game of the season. Is it a good time to play Gills? Is it a good time to play Lincoln? Everyone's got new players that they're trying to bed in. Everyone's probably had some sort of issue with an injury or COVID over pre-season. We had it more than probably most teams, because we literally missed 2 weeks of training. The boys were at home just doing stuff in their gardens. We had to cancel 3 friendlies. So we've only actually played 3 first-team friendlies, I think, against any sort of opposition, which is Colchester, Leyton Orient, Millwall. We've had another one against Welling, and we play Norwich tonight. So I think if you want to get an idea of what the team might be, I think probably look at our lineup this evening. I'd imagine Evans will try and get as close to it as possible. But then Cumming, our keeper, apparently picked up a knock last week, and we had another trialist keeper that come on for the last 20 minutes. So it's all touch and go. We've had 3 trialists as well. So if they get a deal, then potentially we've got more options. We've had a look at, I know Rob Hall, who's ex-Oxford, he's played in the last 2. Was impressed with him at the weekend. I think another ex-Imps as well was Mustafa Karayel.
Yeah, Mustafa Karayel, yeah.
He's probably good for about 10 minutes against Millwall. He was shocking against Leyton Orient at the weekend. Yeah. So I wouldn't touch him. He's 32 as well now, so if you've got to pay a wage for someone who's not been very good on trial, and the other one's a kid from Rangers, apparently he was released by Rangers that Burnley were looking at but said no to, so don't know a lot about him either, but we need bodies, but Evans won't just bring anyone in for the sake of it, so it'll be interesting to see if any of them or all of them feature again tonight against newly promoted Norwich. I think it's some sort of party up at Carrow Road tonight, because I think it's their first game in front of a crowd since they've been promoted back to the Premier League, so they're probably going to have the trophy out and all sorts, but it's minutes in legs, isn't it? I'm not going to read too much into the result, but obviously you don't want to go and get battered 4 days before the season starts. But I don't know. I think we'll find out Saturday if it's a good time to play each other, because it's first game of the season. You've got no form to go on, really, have you, at all? So.
And the result, if I could push you for a prediction for Saturday afternoon.
I hadn't thought about it, to be honest. I'll be boring and sit on the fence. I think a draw would be a decent start for both teams, not getting beat. So I'll go 1 each.
Lovely. And Matt, any plugs? Do you want to plug your channel, plug your podcast, plug anything in?
I just want to say thank you to everyone. I've just got over 1,600 subscribers today. I just had a little look. So thank you to everyone that's subscribed. Please keep subscribing, because I do want to get, away fans, opposition fans on for videos and doing stuff like this. So please check me out. I'm on Twitter. Check out the third tier if you're a League One fan, because that is what it's about, the third tier. So, and keep following Stacey West and Jake and Gary, because they do a brilliant job. And these are the reasons I enjoy EFL football more than the Premier League, is because there's much better fan content out there, rather than just lazy journalists writing in tabloids when they've not really watched a game. And it's not for me. So yeah, keep checking out all the good League One pages.
Well, thanks very much, Matt, for coming on the podcast again. And thank you guys for watching. We will see you all for Fleetwood next week, where we will have Mr. Nappers back on the channel. Thank you very much. Take care.